Hello, my name is Kaylee Paggio with the Office of the Washington State Auditor. The purpose of this recorded training is to provide an overview of the annual report requirements and how to determine what is required or may apply to your government. We will also have a focus on connecting the annual report components to the BARS manual, because it is important to utilize the BARS manual instructions and accounting guidance when completing the annual report. In this recorded training, we will discuss a brief introduction to what the annual report is. Then we will move into how to navigate the BARS manual with a focus on areas that are beneficial when preparing the annual report. Then we will spend majority time learning about how to prepare the annual report components. We will wrap up this training with other training and resources available to local governments related to BARS and annual filing. Now let's get started with our first agenda item. To get through this training, we all need to have a basic understanding of what the annual report is and the overall requirements for it. The annual report is required for all local governments in the state of Washington, regardless of size. It's essentially a compilation of a government's financial activity and other information about how the government functions and operates for the reporting year. The State Auditor's Office develops systems and forms for governments to submit this information to us and helps to ensure efficiency, accuracy, and compliance with uniform accounting. The requirement to submit the annual report is established in state law, which states the report must be submitted within 150 days after the close of each fiscal year. Since the deadline is established in state law, we are not able to grant extensions to this deadline. We're going to give a high-level overview of the annual report components just to give you a better idea of what we will be going over today. First, let's talk about the components that are applicable only to cities, towns, and counties. The Schedule 17 is applicable to all cities, towns, and counties, but may not be required for your specific government. This schedule is used to document compliance with limitations on public works projects performed by public employees. This is heavily driven by RCW, so if you're unsure if it's required for your government, we recommend reviewing the BARS instructions and applicable RCWs to make that determination. Then we have the Schedule 20, which is required for rural counties only, and this is also driven by RCW, which is why the guidance and criteria is based on what is written in those RCWs. This schedule is used to summarize the use of sales and use tax resources on public facilities and demonstrates compliance with the state law. Since these schedules only apply to a small number of governments, we won't be going into further detail on these for the purposes of this training. For the purposes of this training, we will only be focusing on these schedules listed here that apply to all government types. This is just a general list of the components, but we will be taking a closer look at each one of these in today's recorded training. We will define what each component is and what the criteria is to help determine if this is required for your government or not. Now we will move into navigating the BARS manual. Remember, the focus of this training is connecting the BARS manual to the annual report so you know where to find the applicable BARS guidance for each component of the report. Let's start with the reporting templates. To access this, you will go to the SAO homepage, sao.wa.gov, select BARS and annual filing up at the top, and select BARS reporting templates. This is a snippet of what the BARS reporting templates page looks like. You can find templates for all SAO annual report schedules here, and they are pre-formatted for easy upload to the annual filing system. After reviewing the available templates, you may notice that there is no template for the notes to the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, also known as the CFA, and there are no Schedule 01 templates for cities, towns, or counties. I will explain more on this when we talk about preparing the Schedule 01. The templates are formatted very simply and are really designed as tools to import data into the filing system. The most important thing to remember when using these templates is do not alter the basic format of them. This means do not delete or add any columns, headers, subtotals, etc. You only need to input your information where applicable and then upload it into the filing system. The templates should be used in conjunction with the applicable BARS manual section that contains instructions for the preparation of that component of the report. Now that is a good segue into navigating the BARS manual. To get to the manual, you will go back to the SAO homepage, sao.wa.gov, then click the BARS and Annual Filing tab at the top and select the BARS GAAP manual. And let's do a quick overview of the 4 main sections of the BARS manual before digging deeper into the sections. The 4 main sections of the BARS manual are Chart of Accounts, Budgeting, Accounting, and Reporting. You can see 3 of the main sections, Budgeting, Accounting, and Reporting, are the BAR from our BARS acronym. Once you have selected the BARS manual, this is the page you will see. This landing page gives you some background information on the BARS manual. You can also print the manual by clicking the button in the top right corner, the blue button that says download this manual as PDF. I know some of you like to have a physical copy to make notes or highlights on, so we do have that option available for you. The navigation panel is on the left side of the page. You can see there are the 4 sections we mentioned a moment ago: Chart of Accounts, Budgeting, Accounting, and Reporting. In addition to those, we also have the Table of Contents and Alerts and Changes. First, let's talk about the Chart of Accounts, and this is where you will find all relevant guidance on BARS accounts. For this training, we'll primarily be focused on the BARS account export page, where you can download the full chart of accounts for your government type and basis of accounting. And we'll talk about more on that in the next few slides. Other things you can find here: guidance on the basic structure of a BARS code, the applicability of those codes, what the different categories of codes are, revenue sources, expenditure functions, etc. For those GAAP governments that report proprietary activity, you can also find guidance on determining non-operating and operating revenues and expenses, and this includes a matrix that identifies the classifications as they are reflected in the filing system. Now let's take a closer look at the BARS account exports page. So when you see and are in the BARS manual, click the Chart of Accounts and then select BARS account export. At the very bottom of the page, you'll see this set of options. First, select your government type. If you're a city, select city, town. If you're a fire district, select fire protection district, and so on. This step is really important and will help you to fill out the Schedule 01 template if needed. Then you'll select your government's basis of accounting, and since you're watching this recorded training, you report as GAAP. Now for export type. You can choose whether you want Excel or PDF. The PDF version is nice because it is print ready, so if you like to print it and make handwritten notes, that might be your choice. It's also more reader friendly. The Excel version is nice because it's easy to filter and sort the codes, and you can make electronic notes and things like that. So then the Excel version might be the best option for you. Reporting level has 2 options: above and prescribed only. If you select PDF, you'll automatically get above and prescribed. But even if you select Excel, we do recommend leaving it as above and prescribed, and we'll talk more about that in just a moment. And after you make your selections, click Download BARS Accounts. And now we're going to look at the difference between the BARS account export and the Schedule 01. The image on the left is a snippet of the BARS account export in PDF, and on the right is the Schedule O1 template in Excel. The BARS account export will include all available codes for your government type and basis of accounting, and includes the definition of each code. This is helpful to use when preparing the Schedule O1 because, as you can see, the template does not include the definitions of the codes, only the code title. Now let's go back and talk about the difference between above and prescribed and just prescribed only. Let's use this image of the PDF to show what the differences are. To file your annual report for a restricted net position, you would need to use the code 308.19.00. This is the prescribed code. Above prescribed would just be the 308 portion of the code, which is beginning balances. As you can see in the PDF image, above prescribed gives you some information about what the 308 codes record, and then move on to the prescribed codes. That information about beginning balances would not be included in the prescribed only download. That is the main difference between the two, is that the prescribed only gives you the codes needed to file, while the above and prescribed gives you information about each family of codes, and that can be really helpful when trying to understand your government's chart of accounts. Now we're moving on to the accounting section in the BARS manual. This is the best place to start if you are ever thinking, how do I record this transaction? Because having the correct accounting for your transactions helps to ensure that your annual report is accurate when you go to report to SAO. Some highlights to remember for this section include accounting guidance on how to account for liabilities such as compensated absences, pension liabilities, etc. Also, an area we get a lot of questions on is how to account for interfund activities such as interfund transfers, interfund loans, reimbursements, etc. And another area worth noting in the accounting section is the Accounting Principles Guidance, which is found under Accounting Principles and Internal Controls. In here, you will find guidance on the new error correction codes, which replace the prior period adjustment codes effective fiscal year 2024. Then we have the reporting section. There is a ton of great guidance in here, especially since we are focusing on the reporting requirements for the annual report. Some key things to remember in this section include reporting principles and requirements, and this includes an overview of the annual report requirements based on your government type. This will give you a general idea of the components required for your report, but each component may have specific criteria that you'll need to evaluate to determine if it applies to your government or not. Then we have the supplementary and other information and SAO annual report schedules. This will include instructions on how to prepare each component of the annual report, such as Schedule 01, 09, etc. This is just the guidance for how to report the information and fill out those templates. We will be spending more time in this section as we go, since we are focusing on the reporting aspect. That takes us to the final tab, Alerts and Changes. Every year we review the BARS manual and make changes to clarify existing guidance or add in new guidance. The Alerts and Changes section gives you a detailed description of what changed. I highly recommend you review this page every year so that you know what changes were made. And as you can see, the BARS Alerts and Changes does have a section for what changed for effective 2024. Now, we just did a very high level overview of where to find specific topics in the BARS manual, but we also have a search function directly in the manual. When searching for BARS related topics or codes, remember to use the search in the BARS manual. You can see that the text will say search BARS GAAP, and that indicates that you are in the right place. As part of this recorded training, we will have the occasional activity or exercise that we will walk through together. And these are just designed to help make sure everyone is understanding the learning objectives as we go. And for this activity, we are going to explore the search function a little deeper. And as a viewer, you have the option to pause the recorded training as needed to participate in this exercise, or you can simply follow along with us. So in the BARS manual search, we are going to type in drainage to see what search results we get. Once you search the term drainage, you should see BARS code 53100 listed in the search results. Based on the description, it sounds like the correct code to use for what we need to report. But how can you confirm it's valid for your specific government type? To confirm if this code is valid for your government to use, you should download the chart of accounts for your specific government type and basis of accounting. If it is listed there, that means it's valid for you to use. And the purpose of this exercise is to show that although the search function is great and can be very helpful, it's also important to remember that just because a code comes up in the search results doesn't automatically mean it's valid for your government. Now we'll spend most of our time in here preparing the annual report components. The first component we're going to talk about is the Schedule 01. Other than the preparation of your actual financial statement package, the Schedule 01 is the biggest component of the report and required for all local governments. The purpose of this schedule is to report the government's financial activity for the reporting year. This includes beginning balance, revenues, expenditures, and ending balances for all reportable funds. This financial activity is reported using BARS accounts to identify the specific type of function or activity the transaction is supporting or the source of the revenue. Even though we won't be getting into the filing system aspect today, it is important to know that each fund reported on the Schedule 01 must balance within $1,000 in order to submit the report. You may remember when we talked about the templates page, you can find a Schedule 01 template for all local government types except cities, towns, and counties. There is no template for these government types because they utilize the entire chart of accounts and report various funds. For GAAP governments, it's basically a crosswalk from their financial statements into the Schedule 01, but utilizing the prescribed BARS codes. It also includes a summary of your balance sheet transactions, such as assets, liabilities, deferred inflows, and outflows. One of the most important ways we utilize the Schedule 01 is we publish this data on our external website, so it's available for anyone to see. Our office strives to be transparent, and this is one way we achieve that mission, so it's important that the data we collect is accurate. SAO is actually required by state law to produce and publish comparative statistics for all local governments. And in order to do that, we utilize the Schedule 01 data because the use of BARS codes helps make the data we collect uniform and easily comparable across all government types. We publish the data on our website via the Financial Intelligence Tool, also referred to as FIT. Now let's define what balance sheets account are and what they are used for. Within each local government's chart of accounts, you'll find a series of 800 codes, which are referred to as the balance sheet accounts and are used to report information from the balance sheet or statement of net position, such as current and non-current assets, deferred inflows and outflows, current and non-current liabilities. These codes are applicable to all GAAP funds except fiduciary. It is important to note that you must use the balance sheet and/or statement of net position from the GAAP proprietary and governmental fund financial statements and not the government-wide statements. Now let's talk about memorandum accounts, which are only applicable to GAAP proprietary funds. These accounts are used to report financial activity related to debt and capital assets, which are not reported in the operating statement, but provide valuable information. The collection of this data is necessary for producing comparative statistics, which the state auditor's office is required to do based on state law. Essentially, these memorandum accounts are used for informational purposes only and provide valuable financial data that we would not be able to collect otherwise. Since these accounts are for informational purposes only, amounts reported to them do not impact the balancing requirement of your Schedule 01. Now let's look at the memorandum accounts for debt-related activities a little more closely. When debt is issued in a GAAP proprietary fund, no revenue or inflow is recorded on the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. Historically, since this activity is not recorded on the operating statement, it would have been omitted from the Schedule 01 to avoid balancing issues that prevented submission of the report. Without the use of these memorandum accounts, it would appear as though GAAP proprietary funds never issued any debt, and that skews the comparative statistics. Now with the use of memorandum accounts, we can remain transparent to our constituents and see the accurate amount of debt issued across all local governments. And just like when debt is issued, when debt is paid or capital assets are purchased in a GAAP proprietary fund, no expense or outflow is recorded on the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. The use of these memorandum accounts report the amount paid on debt and capital related payments and are collected for informational purposes only to allow us to meet that statutory requirement for producing comparative statistics. As you can see, these memorandum accounts are the same ones you use to report these activities in your governmental funds. However, the difference is when they are reported in GAAP proprietary funds, the annual filing system automatically knows to omit them from the system balancing check. And if you need further guidance on this, we do have a short 5-minute recorded training available just on the memorandum accounts and balance sheet accounts. This training can be found on our training and workshops page in the e-learnings library under BAR's library. And when uploading the completed Schedule 01 template, it is important that it is in the correct format. When you navigate to the BAR's reporting templates page, all templates are pre-formatted for easy upload, so the intent is for you to only input data where applicable and not alter any of the basic formatting. That means no additional headers, subtotals, etc. This applies to all SAO templates. And this is an example of the basic format of the Schedule 01. As you can see, it is very basic and used only to import the data into the filing system. Columns A through E must be formatted as text and do not delete or add any columns. Column F must be formatted as number, and then you can delete any rows that do not apply, or you can input 0 in the amount field, and when uploaded into the filing system, it will remove those line items with a 0 in the amount, except for the memorandum account line items. Even if that amount is 0, the filing system will retain that. When completing the Schedule 01, it's important to utilize the instructions in the BAR's manual. This is a snippet of how you can find those. And these instructions also include the guidance for reporting memorandum accounts on the Schedule 01. We are still talking about the Schedule 01. As I mentioned, it is a very important component of the report, but the focus in this next section is visualizing the connection between your financial statements and the Schedule 01. So we are going to demonstrate how that crosswalk process works. This is an example of a crosswalk from the statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in fund net position into the Schedule 01. The image on the left of your screen is a snippet of the statement of changes for a GAAP water district, and on the right is a snippet of the Schedule 01 template for a GAAP water district. And while looking at the screen, you will see red numbers on both images. The red numbers correspond to where that line item is reported on the Schedule 01. And you'll notice that some of the red numbers are duplicated, which indicates amounts that need to either be consolidated or separated into further detail for reporting on the Schedule 01. And looking at the statement, you will see the red number 1 for water sales. Then over on the Schedule 01, you'll see the red number 1 as well. You would take that $3 million amount and report it over on the Schedule 01 for water sales and services revenue. And then moving down to operating expenses, I wanted to point out that depreciation and amortization lines, which have the red number 3. These will need to be consolidated and reported over on the Schedule 01 to the applicable 501 BARS code for depreciation and amortization for water utilities. One good double check here to confirm the Schedule 01 accurately ties to the statement is the total operating expenses on the statement in that purple box should be the same as the total amounts reported over on the Schedule 01 example, also within a purple box. The last thing before we move on, if you remember those memorandum accounts we just talked about, I wanted to point out a couple of those on the Schedule 01 example as shown by the 2 red arrows. These line items for debt and capital outlay, these are the memorandum accounts for a GAAP proprietary fund. And so as you can see, you won't find that information on this statement, but remember it is required to be reported on the Schedule 01, even if the amount is truly 0. We are still talking about proprietary funds, but let's move over to the crosswalk from the statement of net position into the Schedule 01. You will see on the Schedule 01 example, there is the series of 800 codes used to report the government's assets, liabilities, and deferred outflows and inflows. You will follow the red numbers on the statement and where they correspond to on the Schedule 01. Looking at the statement, you'll see 2 line items with the red number 8 for cash and cash equivalents. So those would need to be consolidated and reported to the corresponding line on the Schedule 01. And a good double check here as well is the amount on the statement for total assets should match to the total reported to the red number 8 and 9 over on the Schedule 01. We are going to move on to the crosswalk for governmental funds now. I will move a little more quickly through this because the basic concept is the exact same, but for the governmental crosswalk, it is a little more simplified since we are not dealing with the memorandum accounts. On the left of your screen, you'll see a snapshot of the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances for a GAAP health district that reports as a governmental fund. On the right of your screen, it is a snippet of the Schedule 01 template for a GAAP health district. Same thing as before, the red numbers on the statement correspond to the red numbers on the Schedule 01 example. Looking at the first line item on the statement, this is for licenses and permits. Depending on what exactly is included in this, there may be multiple BARS codes used on the Schedule 01, but for purposes of this training, we are going to lump it all into other non-business licenses and permits over there on the Schedule 01. Then moving down to expenditures, depending on your specific statement, these might be at a higher level of detail than what is needed for the Schedule 01. You will want to either separate or consolidate amounts, so you're reporting salaries, benefits, supplies, and services, then any debt or capital as it applies. Last thing is the governmental crosswalk from the balance sheet into the Schedule 01. Again, same concept as before, each red number corresponds to the applicable line item on the Schedule 01. Looking at the statement on the left, you'll see there are 2 number 9s, which would be consolidated to report one line item on the Schedule 01. Then looking at the total liabilities with the number 11, this is just copied right over into the Schedule 01 as shown. Now that concludes our crosswalk section of today. And I know this is a lot of information, so please utilize the BARS manual guidance or reach out for questions or assistance with your annual report. Now let's move on to the Schedule 09, also known as the Schedule of Liabilities. As the name suggests, this is used to report local government's liabilities. Both current and non-current liabilities should be reported on this schedule. Some examples of liabilities reported on this schedule are loans, bonds, pension, environmental liabilities, OPEB, leases, and SPEDA. When reporting debt, only the face value of the principal will be reported. Do not include any items like interest, issuance costs, premiums, or discounts, etc. It is really important to utilize the Schedule 09 instructions to identify the correct ID number to use that best matches the type of liability being reported. There are 3 debt categories that you should review to locate the correct ID number, and that is general obligation liabilities, which means you have pledged the full faith and taxing authority of your government to pay the debt. Then we have revenue and other non-GO debt, and assessment liabilities with commitments. The Schedule 09 is a really good example of how items are split in the BARS manual. The instructions provide guidance on how to report the local government's liabilities on the Schedule 09 for the annual report, which is why it's in the reporting section of the BARS manual. But the actual accounting or calculation of liabilities is found in the accounting section of the BARS manual. Let's use pension as an example, since it does impact most governments. The Schedule 09 instructions provide the ID numbers to report the pension liabilities on the Schedule 09, but the actual calculation and accounting guidance is in the accounting section under liabilities. Now that we know where to find the accounting and reporting guidance and instructions for Schedule 09, it is time to fill out the template. This is an example of the Schedule 09 template, and as you can see, we are not altering the basic format of the template because remember, it's designed to import the data into the filing system. When completing the Schedule 09, it's important to utilize the instructions to ensure you're using the correct ID numbers. You'll input the ID number, input a description of the liability. As you can see, it doesn't need to be lengthy. And then the maturity date. This is only required for certain liabilities. Some liabilities, such as pension and compensated absences, are excluded from needing a maturity date. The maturity date is a fixed date for final payment of the liability. So there are some liabilities without one. In that case, it can be left blank. Just do not delete the column. When inputting the amounts, it must be whole dollars and do not include any cents. If cents are included, the filing system will round the amount to the nearest dollar when uploaded. However, each line item must balance within $1. So including cents can cause variance issues even if very small. This is a visual to show the difference between the template and what is produced by the filing system. The top image is the Schedule 09 template. Then once the data is imported into the filing system, the system will produce a professionally formatted version. The formatted version includes the proper headers, totals, debt categories, etc. Now that we have learned about the Schedule 09, let's move on to the Schedule 15. The Schedule 15 is used to report expenditures from awards received from state agencies. Since we are reporting expenditures, you would only report items on the Schedule 15 the year that the expenditures occurred, which may be different than the year that you received the grant revenue. Since we are discussing award money, remember to always confirm with the state agency to see if any portion of the award is federal in origin. Federal funding always stays federal, and there are instructions on how to report any mix of state and federal funding in the Schedule 15 and Schedule 16 instructions. So let's walk through a quick example to help us better understand how the Schedule 15 is completed. In this example, in 2024, Sample County spent $50,000 rebuilding roads that were damaged in an earthquake. The county applied and was approved for a grant from the State Department of Transportation in the amount of $25,000, which will be received in 2025. So the question here is, what year would the county report a Schedule 15 as part of their annual report? They would report a Schedule 15 in their 2024 annual report, because remember, that is the year the expenditures were recognized. Remember, the Schedule 15 should be submitted in the year the expenses were recognized. Then the last question, what amount would be reported on the Schedule 15? The answer is $25,000, because it would only be the amount that is or will be covered by the state grant. Now we know the reporting requirements for the Schedule 15, so let's take a quick look at how the template is completed. In order to fill out the template, you will need the 7-digit prescribed bars code for the state agency that you're reporting for, which always is found in your chart of accounts, and now you know how to export that. And this is really important because the bars code is needed, and it's not the same if you just input the state agency name. Then you will enter the program title, which is the name of the award program assigned by the state agency. The identification number is the contract or award numbers assigned by the state agency. This can usually be found on the contract or agreement, but if you do not have this, please put NA for not applicable in that field. And then the amount, remember, this is the amount spent that is or will be covered by the state grant. The Schedule 16 is very similar to the Schedule 15, but now we're talking about federal awards. The Schedule 16, also referred to as the CFA, is used to report expenditures from awards received directly or indirectly from federal agencies. That is important to remember. It is only reporting the expenditures that are or will be covered by the federal award. Just like Schedule 15, it is reported in the year that the expenditures were recognized. Direct federal awards are received directly from the federal agency, and indirect federal awards are received indirectly from a pass-through entity. This is usually a state agency, a local government, etc. It is very important to prepare this schedule carefully to ensure that it is accurate and complete. There are very strict reporting requirements and other criteria that goes into this schedule due to audit requirements. When it comes to completing the Schedule 16 template, just like any other template, it is important to not adjust the prescribed format. Do not add any additional columns, totals, subtotals, etc. Remember, the templates are really just used to import the data into the filing system. And when filling out this template, you can actually leave the columns for federal agency name and program name blank. And when you upload this into the filing system, those fields will auto-populate based on the ALN that you used. The filing system has all known and current ALNs programmed in, so it helps with accuracy in making sure the agency and program names are correct based on the ALN. I also want to draw your attention quickly to column I for pass-through to subrecipients. This column can cause some confusion. So I just want to point out that this column can be left blank if there wasn't an amount that you passed on to a subrecipient of the award. But the main thing to remember is this is a numerical field, so it needs to either have an amount or be left blank. And here is the final version of the Schedule 16 that gets exported from the filing system after you upload the template. So you can see that the template was really basic and used only to import the data, but then the filing system generates this professional version. And as you can see, the federal agency and program names are included, and the system automatically totals everything and includes the applicable clusters as well. The Schedule 16 does have a secondary component that is required as part of the annual report, which is the notes to the CFA. This is a separate form than the Schedule 16 template, and it is attached separately within the annual filing system. Just a reminder from earlier that there is no template for these notes. To create your notes, you'll go to the Schedule 16 instructions in the BARS manual and copy and paste the note disclosures in a Word document to complete. You will only copy over the disclosures that are required and applied to your government. Here's a snippet of what you'll see once you are in the Schedule 16 instructions. You'll find the information you need to copy into a clean Word document. This helps ensure you are using the most up-to-date note disclosures, and remember, only use what is required and applies to your government. The Schedule 21 is required for all local governments and is used to report information on how the government responds to risks and payments for things like property, health and welfare, unemployment, workers' compensation, the Washington paid family and medical leave, etc. Within the annual filing system, every local government is required to answer 5 questions about how they respond to these risks and liabilities, and the responses will determine if the full Schedule 21 form is required or not. Local governments may assume the risk, purchase insurance, become a member of a risk pool, self-insure these risks and liabilities, etc. If a government self-insures for any of the risks asked about in the 5 questions, it will be required to attach the full Schedule 21 form with additional information regarding any claims made in the reporting year. There definitely is some complexities that go into this schedule in defining what self-insured means. So we recommend utilizing these instructions in the BARS manual for additional guidance. This is just a snippet of what the Schedule 21 form looks like. This template is in a Word document, which is different than the other templates that are typically in Excel. That is because this form is not uploaded and only attached to your report in the filing system. You would complete this if you self-insure for any of those risks that we talked about, and you would input additional information on how you self-insure, any claims you made in the reporting year, etc. Even though I said we weren't getting into the filing system itself, I did want to include this snippet of the Schedule 21 step in the filing system because the 5 questions are answered directly in the system. As you can see, your responses to the questions will determine if the full form is required or not. If it's not, you'll see a red message at the bottom stating it's not applicable. If it is required, you'll see a place where you can attach the completed Schedule 21 form. The last component of the annual report is your government's financial reporting package. The SAO annual report schedules we covered already are required in addition to the GASB requirements because the SAO schedules are required as part of RCW 4309-230. Essentially, this means even if the schedule of liabilities is included in your financial reporting package, it is still required to complete the SAO prescribed Schedule 09. We work to ensure that the SAO legal reporting requirements for local governments in Washington are consistent with the national standards of financial reporting prescribed by the GASB. These requirements include the basic financial statements, including notes to the financial statements, required supplementary information, including the MD&A, which stands for Management Discussion and Analysis, and the supplemental schedules. And with that, we are through all of the annual report components. And as we wrap up this training, we do have some great training and resources related to BARS and annual filing that are available for local governments. To kick us off, we have a great new feature to share with you. We have a new and improved chat function that can be found in the bottom right of the web page through the annual filing system. This new chat support brings several new features to better assist local governments during the filing process. When opening the chat icon, you will be greeted by our new virtual assistant, and you'll see menu options for commonly requested resources such as reporting templates, error guides, training, etc. These menu options will take you to the applicable SAO webpage to access that resource or guidance. And if you are not able to find what you need, continue through other options to request a chat with a filing specialist. It will require you to input some details like your name, government name, and what your question is. Then you'll be connected to a filing specialist. The best part of this new chat feature is local governments will be able to receive some level of assistance even after SAO business hours, since the virtual chat assistant will be there 24/7 and can help direct you to commonly asked questions, links, etc. The filing specialist will generally be available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. during peak filing season, which is March through May. If you are looking for resources related to BARS and annual filing, a great place to start is the BARS and annual report filing FAQs page. This page has great resources to help local governments with this process. Like I said, there's a lot of great information on this page, but I want to specifically highlight these two resources, the handbook and error guide. These resources are extremely helpful to have open as you complete your annual report. The handbook is a step-by-step guide on navigating the filing system and how to use the various functionalities within the system. It also includes a summary of each component of the report, so a lot of what you learned today will be included in this handbook as well. Then the error guide is designed to help you better understand errors that you may receive in the filing system and provides guidance on how to resolve those errors. Now this is a closer look at the handbook. You can see it is professionally formatted and includes a table of contents to easily find what you're looking for. As I mentioned, it goes through the entire filing process step by step and provides screenshots to help you navigate the filing system. For each step, we also provide a summary of each component, so it is really a one-stop shop type of guide and will help you file your annual report. Now let's take a look at the error guide. It is formatted the same as the handbook and includes a table of contents to easily find the error that you're needing guidance on. This also includes a summary of what each error category is. Within the error guide, you'll find every possible error that you may run into in the filing system. You'll find background information and a description of what the error is, what type of information it's looking for, etc. And it includes tips on how to resolve it. We also provide direct links to the applicable bar sections to help provide even more guidance. And another great place to go for help is our training and workshops page. This is where we post all of our recorded trainings and registrations for any live trainings. And we have been working to build up our e-learnings library so local governments can access the training they need when it's convenient for them. There are currently 12 recorded trainings on various BARS topics, but I want to draw your attention to the newest trainings added, which is how to navigate the annual filing system. This is a brief 40-minute recorded training on how to navigate the filing system and use the various features in there. Please make sure to watch the version that applies to your government's basis of accounting. And it wouldn't be an annual report training if I didn't finish it off with a deadline reminder. So here's your reminder. The annual report is due by Friday, May 30th, which is 150 days after the fiscal year end for calendar year end governments. We always encourage governments to start early to allow for plenty of time to ask questions, get help, etc. Our annual filing support team is ready to help you meet the filing deadline. And the best way to reach out to us with your annual report questions is emailing our filing support inbox at lgcsfeedback@sao.wa.gov. For those more technical accounting and reporting questions or BARS topics, we recommend submitting a help desk so it can be assigned to the right specialist on that topic. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this recorded training, and hopefully it provided value to you as you're filing your reports. Have a wonderful day.